piece of the lottery pie.
The outcome of this lottery can be achieved only when there is aggressive and the correct operator. Of course, there will be government part and parcel in it to control them that they are not going out of the way, but operation and everything will be handled by the private operator only.
This week on Inside Government, we're talking to the chairperson of the Presidential Task Force on the establishment of a national lottery, Narendra Guru. Watch the conversation here on KBC Channel 1 with me, O'Brien Kimani.
Mpaka niambie kitu. Manake ni wazi kuna kitu anajua lakini hataki kusema.
Ajui chochote huyo.
Baby, you need to be very quick, baby. Panga everything chako, cha Abel, kila kitu vitu mango zote, panga right now. Mambo si mazuri.
You got it?
Yeah, got it.
Look at you. You've been disloyal and dishonest to me and to poor Vicente, who is devastated right now.
So you were the one who gave him those keys?
Yes.
You were the one who killed Forero.
How is Alonso doing? Please tell us.
He just had some minor complications, but he overcame it. The good part is that he reacted.
Olegario.
Las bandidas.
Meeting sio kwenda tunaenda kucheza golf hapa.
Umerada nimevaa designer shorts. Na mimi ni dere. Sasa imagine dere amevaa designer shorts.
Rayaga man, you can spell it the way you want. You can call it OZ mosquito, WX mosquito, XYZ mosquito, umbu ni umbu.
When they are types of mosquitoes, you guys?
I only know two. The silent ones and the ones that marinate you with their song before landing.
Your Honor, she can take the house up country. I will take the one in town.
Wiki hii kwenye Mkulima tuzungumzie kilimo kipya cha mnyama huyu konokono.
Maji tumefanyia utafiti tukapata kwamba ni maji ambayo yanaweza tengeneza baadhi ya bidhaa ambazo hutengeneza ngozi, pia hufanya ngozi irembeke, na zaidi kabisa pia inatumika katika utibabu wa baadhi ya magonjwa yanayohusu ngozi.
Jiunge nasi Jumamosi saa 10:30 hapa KBC Channel 1.
뭐야 이게? 그냥 나오면 이상하잖아. 뭐라도 들고 나와야지 도둑인 줄 알지.
아이 너무 옹색하잖아요.
니들은 낮부터 어디 있다가 지금 나타나?
아, 이거 셉셉이 새끼 떴다 그래가지고.
Your goodness just carry me go.
Do you think I look nice?
Wiki hii kwenye Mkulima tuzungumzie kilimo kipya cha mnyama huyu konokono.
Maji tumefanyia utafiti tukapata kwamba ni maji ambayo yanaweza tengeneza baadhi ya bidhaa ambazo hutengeneza ngozi, pia hufanya ngozi irembeke, na zaidi kabisa pia inatumika katika utibabu wa baadhi ya magonjwa yanayohusu ngozi.
Jiunge nasi Jumamosi saa 10:30 hapa KBC Channel 1.
Furahia maisha bora, linda jamii yako, linda biashara yako. Chukua bima leo. Tuna bima ya maisha, afya na ajali, mali hata elimu. Chukua bima leo. Linda jamii yako, linda biashara yako. Chukua bima leo. Tuna bima ya maisha, afya na ajali, mali hata elimu. Chukua bima leo.
Good evening. You're watching Prime Edition on the 5th of July 2023, a day that the High Court issued conservatory orders suspending the implementation of Finance Act 2023. So what next, given that government has been implementing the Finance Act of 2023 with the implementation of a VAT tax on fuel just recently? This and so much more in the course of this particular bulletin. I'm Regina Manyara, but first things first, the highlights. Death toll in illicit brew tragedy in Migori rises to 9. Kitui-East Member of Parliament Nimrod Mbai is released on bail, but his gun is withdrawn for assaulting a KPLC employee. And the High Court maintains status of conservatory orders suspending the implementation of the Finance Act 2023. This is Prime Edition. I'm Regina Manyara, and my colleague on sign language is none other than Brian Muraro. The death toll from suspected illicit brew consumption in Migori County has risen to 9, with 8 others fighting for their lives in various hospitals within the county. 4 more succumbed on Wednesday while undergoing treatment at Samogen Hospital in Mabera area, Kuria West, where they were rushed by well-wishers. Locals claim the dead were among a group of revelers who were on a drinking spree, only to experience breathing and talking difficulties. They are now appealing to the authorities to crack hard on illicit brews said to be rampant in the area.
Ni pigo kubwa, pia watu wako na huzuni katika kijiji hiki chote. Katika familia hii pia sisi tunaona vile watu wamekuja hapa kuomboleza, ni kwamba sio jambo la muhimu au jambo la busara kwa watu kama hao kupoteza maisha yao kwa njia ambayo ya kutatanisha hivi.
Tumesikia uchungu sana. Tunaposikia huyu amekufa. Ukweli wa Mungu tunasikia uchungu sana. Tungeomba kama serikali isiangalie Nairobi yenyewe, iangalie kote. Hata huko Kuria. Kwanza Kuria tuko na machanga mengi sana yenye yanatokea.
Tuna majonzi sana. Tunaomba sana serikali tusaidie, tuangalie kama ni pombe hii, basi pombe haramu iondolewe, badala ya kupunguza pombe wanaongeza pombe. Jamani, kweli tutaishi kwa namna hii? Inauma sana, inasikitisha sana.
We wish those who are in recovery a quick one. Kitui-East Member of Parliament Nimrod Mbai was this afternoon released from the Kitengela police station after surrendering himself for assaulting an employee of Kenya Power and Lighting Company. Police released him on a 50,000 shilling cash bail but confiscated his gun. And as Givers on Minor reports, Mbai's conduct has drawn condemnation from the company's management as well as employees.
Soon after he was caught on camera assaulting a Kenya Power staff in Kitengela, Kitui-East MP Nimrod Mbai surrendered to Kitengela police station on Wednesday to record a statement. However, after hours of dodging the media, who were waiting for the lawmaker to be arraigned at a Kajiado court, the MP was released on a police cash bail of 50,000 Kenyan shillings, while his gun was confiscated. The viral video of the scuffle, in which the legislator at one point almost withdrew his firearm, caused uproar amongst Kenyans online. While condemning the incident, Kenya Power Company said their staff were in an operation on Monday to weed out illegal and dangerous power connections when the scuffle erupted.
There was also a case in Nyandarua where a member of staff and the CBM were assaulted while undertaking their duties of disconnection due to the fact that the payments had not been undertaken.
Kenya Power Managing Director Joseph Sirol decried increasing attacks on their staff and demanded that the legislator be held to account.
We demand justice! We demand justice! We demand justice!
The company staff, through the Kenya Power Union, also protested against the MP's harassment of their colleague.
sauti yetu lazima isikike kila mahali. Ilikuwa ni aibu kubwa sana kuona mkubwa wetu, he's an engineer by profession, sio mtu wa kubahatisha, akipigwa kama mnyama.
We want justice for Kenya Power worker and any other worker who works in the field. We are now demanding the government, we are asking the government to intervene to ensure that every Kenyan worker is protected.
They want the government to give a clear directive over illegal connections. The MP will be arraigned in Kajiado Court on 11 this month. Giverson Minor, Prime Edition.
Chakama Ranch, the land on which 338 bodies have been exhumed so far following the Shakahola massacre, was under the state's receivership since 2016. Appearing before the Senate's ad hoc committee investigating the massacre, Diana Mumo, representing the official receiver, revealed that cult leader Paul Nthenge Mackenzie does not have ownership whatsoever of the land in question. And as Abdul Aziz Hashim reports, Chakama Ranch shareholders have also distanced themselves from the killings and the embattled preacher.
As the multi-agency team combing the vast Shakahola forest plans to begin another phase of exhuming bodies, the ad hoc committee investigating the massacre continues to unravel the mystery surrounding it. Shareholders of Chakama Ranch, where the 338 bodies were exhumed, denied their involvement in the killings. Appearing before the Tana River Senator Danson Mungatana-led committee, the shareholders, through legal counsel Philip Kaingi, denied associating with the cult leader, saying they had taken him like one of the many squatters on the vast land.
My clients had no interaction with Mackenzie as an individual. And his high-profile state that now is being advanced before this committee only came after the activities were discovered. Otherwise, he was a normal squatter.
Observed that there were squatters on the ranch, and we therefore held discussions with the contributories of the company who assured us that they would look into the issue.
In our visit, we did 2 visits and we never saw any squatters' chair. And those lands which Mackenzie is occupying, it is actually near the road. It's not very far from the road.
It also emerged that the ranch has been under state receivership since 2016.
As from 2016 to 2023, for this time that we have had these issues, they were happening on land that was vested in government. So is it correct then to say that liability solely is in the hands of the government, official receiver? Am I right?
I will agree to some extent. However, I will state that we had been in talks with the directors of the company for purposes of paying off the debt that was owed to the company, and for us to be able to now hand over mandate back to its directors.
Kaingi also stated Mackenzie has no legal ownership whatsoever of the 800 acres he was touted to own.
There have been also very strong suggestions that we should consider as a Senate to create laws that will punish religious crimes.
Amid these revelations, the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights, Amnesty International, and the Law Society of Kenya have implored the committee to conduct a thorough probe. Meanwhile, the third phase of the autopsies on bodies exhumed from Shakahola forest is complete. The Danson Mungatana-led committee is expected to tour the vast Shakahola forest once more before tabling their report. Abdelaziz Hashim from Parliament Buildings, Prime Edition.
Now, the head of public service, Felix Koskei, says the government is working around the clock to revamp food security projects across the country. Speaking on a tour of the Galana Kulalu irrigation project, Koskei said so far the prospects from the project indicates that the country has the capacity to be food secure.
Koskei, who was heading a team of technocrats from the government, hailed the progress being realized at the Galana Kulalu irrigation scheme.
We have started with about 500 acres now. You can see very nice maize that have been grown and we are expecting in a very short while we shall be expanding to 10,000 and thereafter now to 100,000, 200,000 to cover the agricultural development land that we have here. So we are on course.
Speaking while touring the maize field in the scheme, Koskei said there were good signs that the country was heading to the right direction and the future was bright.
We are now putting full gear to ensure that we produce enough. And it's not only here, we have other projects around the country that we are trying to revamp, resource, so that in a very short while, it may not be 2-3 years, this country will be food secure and even producing surplus, because we have good soils, we have good weather, and now that we are shifting from rain-fed agriculture to irrigation.
He said with the good signs, the project will now incorporate other crops as it diversifies from the maize plantation.
We want to rotate it with castor oil. Castor oil is very good in fixing the soil, so we want to be rotating 2 maize harvest, 1 castor oil production and harvest. So that is the beginning. But the wider scheme, the wider plan of Galana, as you know, that it was designed and it was actually the feasibility study was done. We can do sugarcane here in this place. We can even do livestock. We can do animal feeds. This place is the best.
The head of public service will be in Mombasa County Wednesday on tour of government projects. This is Galana Kulalu food security project with maize planted in the 500-acre piece of land as a pilot project. According to the head of public service, Felix Koskei, the government has projected that in the next 2 to 3 years, the country will be food secure. From Galana Kulalu, I am Anburu.
Now, a section of commuters within Nairobi are now forced to dig deeper into their pockets after matatu owners revised fares upwards following the increase in fuel prices. However, travelers who were lucky to board electric public service vehicles tell a different story, as fare prices remain the same.
The directive on fare hikes by the Matatu Owners Association has taken effect in some routes. A spot check done by the KBC Channel 1 revealed a section of commuters within Nairobi County and those traveling to other regions are paying more.
Ukiangalia kama tunapata shida sana kwa transport. Mbeleni kitambo tulikuwa tunakuja kutoka mahali penye mimi naishi, nilikuwa ninakuja na 60 ikienda sana 80 bob, but kuanzia hii wiki nimeanza kuja na fare imepanda, imekuja hadi 100. Sometimes unapanda unaambiwa uongeze, inafika hadi 120.
Fare kupanda imeaffect personally kama mimi. Kitambo nilikuwa nalipa chini, I stay at Kangemi kukuja town, so nilikuwa nalipa 30 40, meaning sahi fare itapanda 50 60 70.
At the same time, boda riders and taxi operators interviewed in the Central Business District reported a decline in the number of customers.
Tangu bei ya mafuta ipande juu, gharama imezidi kuenda juu na kazi imerudi chini kabisa kwa sababu wananchi hawana pesa.
Kwa upande mwingine kila kitu sasa kiko juu. Kwa hivyo inabidi kwamba mtu arudi kwa mfuko, hata zile savings alikuwa amefanya ndio aweze kununua chochote.
However, for the rare electric vehicles offering alternative public transportation, fares remain unchanged.
We don't have control for the prices or for the fare, that is, but usually the SACCO is the one that usually control the fare.
I think hata leo ndo tumelipa cheap 70. It's usually 80 to 100. So yeah, but hizi zimesaidia.
Maoni yangu ni kwamba kama itakuja hii na ndio gharama iwe chini, za kuwa faida kwa wanadamu.
These as customers decried the tough economic times, saying the situation is becoming hard to cope with.
As the cost of living continues to go high and the fuel prices are being hiked, perhaps electricity is the way to go. For KBC Channel 1, I am Teresa Mutai.
Our very own Teresa Mtai there doing a spot check in regard to the ripple effect of the implementation of the Finance Act 2023. We'll be keeping tabs given the developments, and here are the details that we're talking about. Now, the High Court maintains conservatory orders issued Friday 30th of June 2023 suspending the implementation of the Finance Act 2023, now meaning that they remain in force. Justice Migori Thande granted Senator Okiya Omtata and co-petitioners prayers of extending the orders until she delivers a substantive ruling on Monday the 10th of July. Ruth Wamboi reports.
In a virtual mention that took 8 hours, Justice Migori Thande extended the interim orders, suspending the implementation of the Finance Act 2023. This is after she had lengthy submissions from the parties involved in the legal dispute. The petitioners came to the court with 3 prayers: contempt of court, an extension of the orders issued on 30th June 2023, and constitution of a bench to hear and determine the matter.
The court said, while the rule of law is at risk of being deliberately undermined, we decline to hear the applicants until they have complied in full with the orders of the High Court.
Clearly, my learned friends do not understand how these matters work. The Finance Act, your ladyship, it only amends existing legislation. The VAT Act, Income Tax Act, all those other acts are still laws of Kenya, and they continue in operation.
However, after the long day submissions, Justice Thande granted only 1 prayer: extension of the implementation of the Finance Act 2023. The request to suspend the Finance Act further was vehemently opposed by Attorney General Justin Muturi through Senior Counsel Githu Muigai, who said that the orders will bring a budgetary crisis in the country.
There is no general rule that a court cannot hear a person in contempt of court before they have purged their contempt.
On hiking fuel prices illegally, Justice Thande did not summon EPRA MD Daniel Kipto for contempt of court. She directed Attorney General, CS Treasury Professor Njuguna Ndung'u, National Assembly Speaker Moses Wetangula, and his Senate counterpart Amason Kingi to file their responses by close of business Friday.
Of July 2023 at 2 p.m. The orders of the 30th of June 2023 are hereby extended until that date.
With the petitioners citing that the Finance Act 2023 infringes on the freedom of association by forcing citizens into an involuntary process, the government will have to wait a little longer for them to start imposing the new taxes. From Milimani Law Courts, I'm Ruth Wamboi.
Now, I'm sure the question that is running through your head is that what happens to the fuel prices that, took a different turn with the implementation of the Finance Act 2023. We'll be keeping tabs on that. For now, we take a short break. We'll be back with more. Do not go away.
I, Kenneth Stanley Gino Matiba, do swear that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to the President and people, and to the President of Kenya, and that I will preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of Kenya as provided as per law established. So bear me God.
Aviator instant game. Be a dare
daring pilot and earn by how much high you can lift the plane. The higher you fly, the higher your win. The sky is the limit. Mozart Bet.
뭐야 이게? 그냥 나오면 이상하잖아. 뭐라도 들고 나와야지 도둑인 줄 알지.
아이 너무 옹색하잖아요.
니들은 낮부터 어디 있다가 지금 나타나? 아 이거 셉셉이 새끼 떴다 그래가지고.
You're still watching Prime Edition. Now, the government will delay the planned reopening of the Kenya-Somalia border points until it conclusively deals with the recent spate of terror attacks and cross-border crime. Interior Cabinet Secretary Professor Kithure Kindiki, who is on a tour of the northeastern region, also announced that the government will take charge of the management and administration of the database of all refugees in the country.
The war on terror has been stepped up with a new directive to delay the planned reopening of the Kenya-Somalia border points until the conclusive dealing with recent attacks and cross-border crimes is realized.
Kwa sababu katika mwezi mmoja ama miwili ambayo imepita, tumeona hao wakora wameanza kutatiza amani. Tumesimamisha huo utaratibu kwa muda kidogo. Kwanza kabisa tushughulikie hao magaidi, tuwafurushe, alafu tutafungua mipaka yetu.
At the same time, Interior Cabinet Secretary Professor Kithure Kindiki, while acknowledging that the government will not backtrack on the implementation of the Refugee Act 2022, announced a policy shift from the encampment of refugees within the country's borders to integrated settlement.
It is going to be the responsibility of the government of Kenya to manage and administer a complete database of all refugees in our country.
The CS, who is on a tour of the northeastern region, further added that those who seek to misuse the refugee situation to disrupt national security through terror will be dealt with accordingly. Yusufar reporting for Prime Edition.
Labour Cabinet Secretary Florence Bore is on the spot for not appearing before the National Assembly on Wednesday afternoon for question time session. Leaders from both majority and minority parties called Bore and threatened to institute an impeachment process against her for being contemptuous of Parliament.
Labour Cabinet Secretary Florence Bore was scheduled to appear in the National Assembly alongside her water counterpart Alice Wahome to answer questions from members of Parliament. But Bore did not show up and sent an apology letter indicating she was held up elsewhere, a matter that rubbed the MPs the wrong way.
She didn't write this letter on Friday. She has written this letter today. And that is why I say it's not just discourteous, it is contempt for the House. And we must make it clear as a House that we shall not allow any cabinet secretary, however powerful you think you are, however mighty you may perceive yourself, to hold the people's representatives with contempt and the institution of Parliament.
So this message must go out very clearly and loudly so, that regardless of who you are, and especially if you happen to sit in the cabinet, you must understand that apart from being answerable to the appointing authority, you are squarely answerable to this House. And if this House invites you, everything else can wait. In fact, must wait.
Leaders of both majority and minority sides demanded that members of the executive must prioritize their appointments to the legislative arm of the government.
And we must make it clear to this cabinet secretary, as Honorable Speaker, and as majority leader, I will never stand here to defend a cabinet secretary or indeed any member of government who is contemptuous of the House and contemptuous of the people of Kenya.
If this House wants to protect its integrity, its credibility, and safeguard its independence and authority, it must use one such case as an example. Honorable Chungwa, I'll be more than happy to second you if you are to move a motion here of impeachment against this cabinet secretary. And there are many, these kind of persons, these characters.
Meanwhile, Water Cabinet Secretary Alice Wahome has justified the establishment of North Rift Waterworks Development Agency, saying it will enhance implementation of water projects in Kakamega, Uasin Gishu and Trans Nzoia counties.
The need for the North Rift Waterworks Development Agency was because the Lake Victoria North was covering a very big area, and ownership issues and implementation challenges, including maybe neglect because of the huge region that it was covering, made it necessary or justified the need for the new Waterworks Development Agency.
Geshoki Washira, Prime Edition.
Can Parliament actually impeach a cabinet secretary? That's a rhetoric. Now let's keep it up with what has been happening at the National Assembly, where now members of the National Assembly want the Ministry of Education to develop a comprehensive junior secondary school policy to address the shortcomings in the implementation of competency-based curriculum. The lawmakers, who unanimously agreed that the 844 system has outlived its tenure, want a proper funding plan developed leading to establishment of junior secondary schools in every primary school to ensure the new curriculum is implemented to optimal levels.
Amid concerns over the successes and the shortcomings of the competency-based curriculum, lawmakers are mulling over the possibilities of amending the Basic Education Act of 2012 to ensure that what was envisaged for the new syllabus is achieved.
Madam Speaker, the funding of the junior secondary school is to be well considered by the government, so that there can be sustainability, good governance, access to curriculum support material.
And we must go back, as Honorable Uruku has indicated, and do the planning. If actually we meant well, I think this government was in a position to actually slow down the process and say, we are not satisfied with the planning, we slow this down for a year, and then we will plan it properly.
It appears that every day the executive is taken by surprise. We've not put enough into the planning of this very well, if implemented, system that will change the life of our nation.
While debating a motion sponsored by Mbai North Member of Parliament Geoffrey Ruku on developing policies and adequate funding for junior secondary schools, lawmakers argue that the rollout of the new curriculum was hurriedly done and hence the need to reevaluate its implementation.
I agree that now proper guideline of the development of the curriculum, the regulations, the guidelines, so that the children of Kenya do not operate on a trial and error learning process.
The legislators want the Minister of Education to ensure that each primary school has a junior secondary to avoid situations where learners travel long distances to school.
We come up with a better arrangement on how we are going to fund these JSS schools or the primary schools that we had, so that our students can stop traveling long distances to access very basic education in other areas.
In the next year, the children who are in the junior secondary must be leaving the junior secondary to another pathways. Yet there's no policy and pathway of how they will operate. So again, when we finish the next year, we shall be in a crisis of how they'll enter the schooling.
According to the lawmakers, classrooms previously used by standard 7 and 8 pupils are underutilized. MPs further want primary school teachers trained to teach junior secondary subjects.
Being subjected to a very difficult situation, having forced to teach subjects that you are not professionally trained for. It is frustrating, it is belittling, it is demoralizing. just to mention the list. So if the teacher is demotivated, it is one teacher teaching all the subjects. What is the quality?
The development comes even as the Teacher Service Commission seeks to employ 20,000 tutors to address the teacher shortage in junior secondary schools. For Prime Edition, I'm Gladys Mungai.
Cheza Loto Moto. Sasa unaweza jishindia instantly na Loto Moto. Dial star 570 hash. Wakati wowote, siku yoyote ya wiki na mahali popote. Dial star 570 hash. Kisha chagua moja kati ya games za Loto Moto. Weka stake zako 50 shillings, 300, 500, 2,000 shillings. The bigger your stake, the greater or the bigger your prizes. Cheza mara kadhaa na kumbuka, cheza responsibly. 18 years and above. Cheza Loto Moto.
Mpaka niambie kitu. Manake ni wazi kuna kitu anajua, lakini hataki kusema.
Hajui chochote.
Baby, you need to be very quick, baby. Panga everything chako, cha Abel, kila kitu mango zote, panga right now. Mambo si mazuri.
You got it?
Yeah, got it.
Now to the corridors of justice. A woman has been arraigned in court for impersonating a Kenya Forestry Service officer and fraudulently obtaining 600,000 shillings from a fellow woman by pretending to have some open vacancies at the Kenya Forest Service. Details of this from the Scales of Justice segment.
Margaret Warigia, while posing as a Kenya Forest Service officer, is said to have fraudulently obtained 600,000 shillings from Margaret Munde Ngambor by falsely pretending she will employ her son at the organization. According to the charge sheet, the accused approached Margaret on March 8, 2023 at Upper Hill in Nairobi County in the company of another woman.
Mnamo tarehe 8 mwezi wa 3 mwaka huu katika eneo la Upper Hill ambalo liko katika jimbo la Nairobi, ukiwa na mwingine ambaye yuko kotini na wengine ambao hawamo kotini, ukiwa na nia ya kulaghai, ulipokea pesa kutoka kwa Margaret Munde Ngambwa.
Appearing before Chief Magistrate Lucas Onyina, the accused denied the charges and was released on a cash bail of 200,000 shillings. Meanwhile, at the same court, an aviation student was charged with stealing a phone worth 164,000 shillings in Kilimani Sub-County, Nairobi.
In Kilimani Sub-County, within Nairobi County, stole a phone make, a Samsung Galaxy S22 Ultra, valued at 164,000 Kenya shillings, the property of Rotich Robert.
However, he pleaded not guilty and was released on a 50,000 shillings bond with an alternative cash bail of the same amount. For Prime Edition, I'm Alvin Kaunda.
To the county's civil society activists in Mombasa County and its environs have been given the green light by police to hold processions to mark the Saba Saba Day on Friday. Elsewhere in Thika Town, Kiambu County, a row has emerged between tuk-tuk operators and their border counterparts in the region over the allocation of stages of operation and alleged extortion. This and more in our county news roundup.
The activists under the banner of Coast Civil Society Movement say the procession to mark the Saba Saba Day on Friday will be peaceful, moving from Elephant Tusk on Moi Avenue to the Treasury Square.
Ninawaaji mjitokeze kwa wingi, mweze kukuja. Hii ni siku yetu ya sisi kupaza sauti. Maisha vile imetutwanga, sidhani kama kuna mtu anaweza sema contrary to what we are saying. So tunawakaribisha. Maandamano haya ni peaceful, very very peaceful. Hatuna fujo, na yetu tu ni kupaza sauti na kucommemorate siku ya Sabasaba.
Elsewhere in Thika Town, Kiambu County, tuk-tuk operators and their border counterparts are embroiled in a row over the allocation of stages of operation and alleged extortion.
Wao wakipewa stage wa operate wananyang'anywa na watu ya bodaboda wanataka memorandum of understanding, wanapewa pesa ili watu ya tuk-tuk wa operate.
Kina watu wa tuk-tuk wameungana, wameenda kwa sababu wameshindwa na kazi yao, wanakuja sasa kwa mashimo zetu kuja kutuharibia kazi. Mali sisi tunalipisha 50 ndio wanakuja kulipisha mbao.
And in Embu County, 90% of the construction works at the Embu Market Bus Park project are being undertaken by women. The move has been celebrated across the board, with women terming it as a much-needed boost to the clamor for equality in job opportunities.
Wakati niliingia kazi ya mjengo, watu walikuwa wanaidharau sana wa mama, lakini kwa saa hii wanaipenda. Mtu akisikia kuna mjengo mahali anaamuka kuruka asubuhi na mapema kukuja kuuliza kazi.
Meanwhile, in Kitui County, parents are demanding the removal of principal at ACK Chief Macau High School, citing low student enrollment and poor results in the Kenya Certificate of Secondary Education examinations.
Sasa shida imetokezea wakati mwalimu wetu principal alipoanza hii shule. Amekuwa sikizani na wazazi, alewani na wazazi. Shule imeshukisha ile inaitangwa minisco. Minisco imeshuka. Watoto wametoroka shule, wazazi wamehamisha watoto wao. Sasa shule imebaki na watoto hata wafiki 100, watoto ni 48 hivi aidhani. Sasa hii form 4 ile venye itatoka, shule yetu inaelekea kufungwa. Hakuna serikali itaendeleza watoto wakiwa ni 20 kwa school.
And finally, Buchenya Primary School in Butere, Kakamega County, has embraced vegetable farming and rabbit keeping as part of implementing the competence-based curriculum.
These children are self-motivated. They are not forced to go to the farm.
Find them that they have practiced some things, they have planted some vegetables, and most of us have benefited because we don't always go to the market to buy this crop.
John Kahiru for Prime Edition.
What would be your reaction if, when called from a wrong number and you accept the deal, thinking it was too good only to find yourself in a situation that involves crime? Here's Jacqueline Masharia with the review of the comic film Wrong Number in our weekly segment, Cinemas and Theatre. Take a look.
The film Wrong Number follows Dan, a young man who, in a bid to break his boredom, pretends to be the intended recipient of a very confidential call.
Mfupa. Muulize tena.
Everything hits the fan when he realizes that he's beaten more than he can chew.
Hinayo inaitwa The Priests.
The film, by One Film Pictures Limited, was written and directed by David Waronja and produced by Njuguna Ng'ang'a. The film features cast members Peter Karari, Fred Ngere, Jackie Waime, Steve Mwangi, Kamau Njenga, Kelly Ogola, and Freddie Ngare. The character Dan is played by Peter Karari.
Dan is a butcher guy, ni kijana wa butchery, nini, so ile call ilikam, hello, ni mimi niko na mfupa. You know, I was like, okay, it's relating with what I do. So kuflow na hiyo kitu ikaenda to the extremes. Ni mimi niko na mfupa plus amesikia sauti ya dem akafuatana nayo. Dan huyo kumbe it was a code for some gangsters.
Tumepata namba.
The character Sam is played by Steve Mwangi.
Sam is the guy alifanya story yote come to life. Because we were given the number by the guy who was supposed to give us the number to tume kwa mdosi. But we had nowhere to write. So, nikaandika kwa mkono yangu. Ikafutika. That's how wrong number came about.
Si kushinda kwa nyumba kila time. Kwani wewe ni home theater?
But how do they prepare for their roles?
Dan ni kijana wa kawaida. He's a butcher guy. So, kuangalia tu pale mtaani naangalia tabia wase nafaa kucheza level gani. Mostly me prepare hivyo na get the whole story, na internalize the lines, and then I start working that character.
It was a good script, and in stretch you had to do research because most of the time nafanyanga nikiwa Karau. So this time I was on the other side of kuwa Mukora. That guy wa mtaani ule msee ukitaka kitu yote he's there nini. So I had to research and do that.
The filmmakers note that the film reception was very positive, that led them to get a nomination at the 12th edition of the Kalasha Awards.
It was a surprise. It was exciting. First of all, kuona tuko pale. Ilikuwa positive. On Twitter, wapi, like we were sharing place, wasi wanasema nini. And it was good.
Skiza. Najua hii ni mara ya kwanza kupiga hii shughuli.
The future is bright. People are investing money to shoot films. Si kama kitambo, you had to wait for production houses to, approve a film. But for now, even they are looking for producers. Unaona kuna hizo opportunities za. If you have a film kwa shelf, bring it on board, we give it life. So production houses are coming out there and giving people money to shoot films.
Kuna culture we need to get in our country. We are going to the theaters, going to the cinemas. I think hiyo bit ndio tunahitaji tu kupush a little bit.
2 guns, no balls, man. I think that makes sense.
Wrong Number is now very much available for public. You can watch it on Showmax.
Jumanzeni kitoa utakonfess.
Jacqueline Masharia for cinemas and theater.
Unajua nimetumia time inatoshanaje kukama up na hiyo joke.
Well, if you grew up in the 80s, you must have gone through a slogan, Tafadhali Dada, hiyo ni wrong number. On that note, we take a quick break. I will be back with the day's business.
Cheza Loto Moto. Sasa unaweza jishindia instantly na Loto Moto. Dial *570# wakati wowote, siku yoyote ya wiki na mahali popote. Dial *570#. Kisha chagua moja kati ya games za Loto Moto. Weka stakes zako 50 shillings, 300, 500, 2,000 shillings. The bigger your stake, the greater, or the bigger your prizes. Cheza mara kadhaa, na kumbuka, cheza responsibly. 18 years and above.
Cheza Loto Moto.
Look at you. You've been disloyal and dishonest to me and to poor Vicente, who is devastated right now.
So you were the one who gave him those keys?
Yes.
You were the one who killed Forero.
How is Alonso doing? Please tell us.
He just had some minor complications, but he overcame it. The good part is that he reacted.
Olegario.
Las Bandidas.
Now we speak business. Information, Communication and Digital Economy Cabinet Secretary Indo-East says the government is seeking to fast-track the critical infrastructure to ensure that to help curtail fiber optic cuts across the country. Now the government is currently installing 100,000 kilometers of fiber optic highway dubbed the Digital Super Highway project that is aimed at opening up the uptake and access of digital services across the country.
as the government fast-tracks the completion of the 100,000-kilometer fiber optic installation project dubbed the Digital Superhighway, fears of fiber optic cuts that have been witnessed across the country in the recent years cast a shadow of uncertainty over the efficacy and reliability of the mega project.
ICT fiber optic cable, just like any other critical infrastructure, will be considered as critical infrastructure. We want to come up with a situation where when the Kenya National Highways Authority or the Kenya Rural Roads Authority are rolling around roads, they do not interfere with fiber connectivity.
But the Information Communication Digital Economy Cabinet Secretary Eliud Owalo has allayed fears, stating that the government is working round the clock to ensure relevant laws are passed to protect the critical infrastructure.
Water piping will be undertaken without interfering with the fiber connectivity, and so does also the electricity polling and electricity wiring.
Owalo said that the government is also working on creating synergies between line organizations to reduce duplicity of infrastructure as well as destruction, while constructing and expanding other complementary infrastructure such as roads, water and sewerage lines. Government is banking on the completion of the multi-billion super digital highway to expand digital uptake and access in the country, as well as creating jobs for the over 5 million Kenyan youths. Installation of 145,000 digital labs across the country, a further 25,000 hotspots in marketplaces is underway. Owalo spoke as he launched digital laboratories in Maseno School, Maseno University, and St. Mary's School Yala in Kisumu and Siaya counties respectively. Tracy Abega, Prime Edition, Kisumu County.
Tax rebates, subsidies and use of technology is key in pushing up off-grid renewable energy in the country. Speakers at the Renewable Energy Forum say with an appropriate global support and investment, favorable policies and incentives, Kenya could achieve universal access to electricity and transition to clean cooking by the year 2028.
Even though the number of Kenyans with reliable access to energy has increased from 40% in 2013 to the current 75% of the population, millions are yet to have electricity, as well as safe cooking fuels and technologies.
Unlocks access.
Speakers at a Renewable Energy Forum in Nairobi advocated for interventions to enhance connection of more people with clean, affordable off-grid power to raise the standard of living for communities.
We have still about 30% of our population to be connected. The commitment by His Excellency the President is to have our grid 100% clean by 2030. That is just about 7 years from now. And all the efforts of His Excellency and the entire government is towards achieving that. The other one is, of course, the whole issue of clean cooking, which is a big problem, and both for health purposes and health impacts that it has on our families and on ourselves.
They backed tax incentives and consumer subsidies to drive off-grid renewable energy to widen access to clean and affordable energy, especially among those living in remote areas.
One of the transformational issues is wind energy and solar energy. We are saying the county governments can give free land, can give, also the government can give, tax rebates, so that then these people are motivated to be able to start off with their work, and also people can access energy through that sort of activation.
To be able to create a conducive environment for uptake of, for instance, off-grid solutions like solar, which is, as we realized, most of the marginalized groups, communities from the arid and semi-arid areas have huge potential for solar uptake, wind uptake.
They also called for increased adaptation financing in energy access from global partners.
The Unclaimed Financial Assets Authority says it's working on modalities that will see it invest part of the kit it holds for social and economic development while safeguarding the right to perpetual reunification. The authority's CEO, John Mwangi, says this is part of proposals for a review of its policies and legal frameworks. Here's Nduta Mkami with the details.
The Unclaimed Financial Assets Authority has a kitty worth 27.3 billion shillings, and the kitty keeps growing as more institutions comply by surrendering unclaimed assets in their possession. In the financial year ended June 2023, the Unclaimed Financial Assets Authority says institutions surrendered unclaimed assets worth 4 billion shillings, the highest ever, and it disbursed assets worth 2 billion shillings to the rightful owners.
The metrics we're using, number one, is to rely on the data provided to us by the remitting institutions. So for us, that's very key. And then now, based on that data, we are uploading that information on our searchable database, which is required by our law, that we maintain a searchable database. And we are encouraging members of the public to use a USSD shortcode, that is *361 hash. Again, I repeat, *361 hash. And also to go to our website, that's www.ufaa.go.ke, wherever you are. And that way you'll be able to find out if any unclaimed assets has been remitted under your name or somebody you know.
There have been debates as to whether the unclaimed assets could be reinvested into the economy as the beneficiaries are sought.
On matters of reunification, we have reunified 2 billion worth of Kenya shillings to date, and we intend to increase that even 10-fold. But because it's not easy globally to reunify people with their lost and found assets, we're going to invest and continue investing this money to safeguard it in where and how we are told by the Act to do. That's in government, securities, they be treasury bills.
Despite this, Mwangi says the authority plans to employ the use of technology in fast-tracking the process of identification, processing, and disbursement of the surrendered and claimed assets to its rightful owners.
For low-value claims, once we identify you, and now with the advancements in technology, it's very easy for us to pay you.
The Unclaimed Financial Assets Authority is working to reunite unclaimed assets with their rightful owners as they beckon Kenyans to dial the short code *361 hash to get acquainted. Reporting for Prime Edition, my name is Nduta Mkami.
The cost of edible oils is likely to remain high due to the newly introduced taxes on imported products. Players in the sector say due to the recently introduced taxes and levies on imported crude palm oil, taxes and levies are consuming almost 35% of the total production cost. Golden Africa Chair Faoud Hayel says the situation has been worsened by the volatile exchange rate that has seen the Kenya shilling shed close to 35% of its value against the greenback.
The retail price of edible oil has risen by more than 50% in the last 2 years, forcing consumers to revert to solid fat, which carries major health complications. The situation has been compounded by the recently introduced 2% nut and oil crop levy, which is expected to make the commodity more expensive. Kenya is one of the largest consumers and producers of edible oil in Africa, with the country having 13 companies with the capacity of generating over 50 billion in revenue for the government annually through taxes. Speaking during a meeting with Malaysian Deputy Prime Minister Fadila Yusof, Golden Africa Chair Faoud Hayel says the government should engage players in the sector to craft a solution that will lower the price of the commodity.
If government decides to increase the duty, of course, it will be passed on to consumer. This is what happens everywhere. When government increases duty on us, we will have to pass it to consumer. When government maintains the current structure of duty, prices will not go up.
Hayel says the high cost of edible oils has been due to a combination of internal and external factors that make the cost of producing finished edible oils in the country extremely high.
We don't expect the government to increase import duty on crude oil, because crude oil is the basic raw material that we process. So this is an essential item that is used by almost everybody here. And this is something that is a necessity, food or part of the daily diet for everyone.
Kenya mainly imports crude palm oil from Malaysia and Indonesia. The Malaysian Deputy Prime Minister is in the country for an official visit.
Golden Africa, Kenya's investment plan seeks helping the government in implementing the bottom-up economic transformation agenda by creating employment opportunities for the youth in a bid to reduce the rate of dependency and poverty and revitalize Kenya's economy. Reporting for Prime Edition from Lukenya, Machakos County, my name is Frederick Mwoki.
Biggest odds in the world every day on selected matches. Make a decision. Mozart Bet.
The Food and Agriculture Organization has availed equipment and chemicals for containing fall armyworms which have invaded farms in parts of lower eastern counties.
The Agriculture Cabinet Secretary says the government has already procured pesticides and spraying equipment to contain the spread of fall armyworms that have invaded farmlands in lower eastern. Linturi says the government has earmarked a kitty of 400 million shillings to contain the pests.
Purchased pesticides to the tune of 486 million shillings. FAO has also given us support by giving us another extra 100 million for East and Central Africa because these pests are migratory.
He says the government and partners such as the Food and Agriculture Organization have heightened monitoring and surveillance of the fall armyworms. The Food and Agriculture Organization has also started regional containment efforts to curb the spread of the pest.
Unfortunately, because of climate change, we see the increase of pests, the severity of it. But what is really most importantly is to make sure that the communities, the farmers, they are equipped to be able to control.
This emerged as the Food and Agriculture Organization officially launched its 4-year operation framework that entails spending over 14.5 billion shillings to strengthen Kenya's food systems.
Quite a robust program, I should say, that surely will unlock more resources coming from the private sector, coming from the development partners, coming from FAO itself, in order to be able to implement the counter-programming framework.
Benson Rioba reporting for Prime Edition.
Those who have a problem with bugs and crawling insects there, that story by Rioba must have made you shudder, you know, the movement. Now let's speak matters trade. Kenya and India are exploring ways of deepening trade ties to close a yawning trade imbalance that favors New Delhi. Kenya is seeking new opportunities for tea, coffee, nuts and other products. Elsewhere, the 24th edition of the Kenya International Trade Exhibition kicked off today, bringing together hundreds of traders from Kenya and across the region. The exposition seeks to showcase various products and services that are produced in Kenya.
Trade and diplomatic ties between Kenya and India date back more than a century. Kenya has signed various bilateral agreements with India in a bid to balance trade ties between the two countries. Last year, India exported to Kenya goods totaling 240 billion shillings, while imports from Kenya were recorded at 1 billion shillings. Speaking during the launch of Indo-East Africa Trade Expo, Parliamentary Affairs Principal Secretary Aurelia Rono says that Kenya and India's bilateral partnership has evolved into a robust partnership marked by increasing trade and investment that has immensely boosted both economies.
The government has prioritized a number of business-oriented areas as core propellers of economic prosperity under the bottom-up economic transformation agenda. These are agriculture, the micro, small and medium enterprises economy, housing and settlement, healthcare, the digital superhighway and the creative economy, and lastly, environment and climate change.
Rono has called on Kenyans to take advantage of the ongoing Indo-East Africa Trade Expo and tap trade opportunities that exist between Kenya and India. Elsewhere, the 24th edition of the Kenya International Trade Exhibition kicked off today, bringing together hundreds of traders from Kenya and the region.
We help farmers, we translate research into practicality to farmers. So we help interpret certain research to farmers. For instance, we have been able to help farmers, we help them leverage markets. We also help them take part in the agricultural value chain. So we are very insistent that agriculture is not simply about putting our seed on the ground and waiting it for it to grow.
We want to improve work on food processing technologies that we can utilize to come up with various kinds of novel food products from these African crops. And the fifth one, a very important one, is we want to use the side streams or the waste products of these crops and come up with biodegradable and bio-based packaging material that is eco-friendly.
We have not attained KBC. It's still in processing. It's taking a lot of processes, and you meet a lot of people. This one tell you this way, the other one, and there is a lot of. I think if the process is being narrowed to maybe you can get it, easily access it, it will be better.
The expo gives visitors the opportunity to source cutting-edge products and services, as well as learn about the latest market trends. The exhibition, which started 26 years ago, has evolved into a networking and sourcing platform for industries, ensuring direct access to over 150 exhibitors from 30 countries and more than 12,000 trade visitors. Trevor Ngindo for Prime Edition.
Licensed scrap metal dealers in Kakamega County are decrying increased cases of vandalism, which they blame on the proliferation of the value chain by unscrupulous dealers after the lifting of the ban on the purchase and sale of scrap metal.
The government last year lifted the ban on the trade of scrap metal, which had been imposed to curb increased cases of vandalism of critical infrastructure, including electricity transformers, transmission lines, rail and road infrastructure.
If our access rate is 40%, it means there is an opportunity to connect 60%. If transformers are vandalized, so that the new transformers that are bought come to replace the ones that are vandalized, then the unconnected Kenyans are missing an opportunity to get connected to power.
And now, cases of vandalism have increased, at least according to licensed scrap metal dealers in Kakamega County.
If you go the way it is going, you are giving the government an opportunity to do what was done last year. Because we have been told the damage is heavy.
So that we don't need to keep mpaka tuna employ security to guard scrap. And then we should be doing something else.
The traders want relevant authorities to take responsibility and address the issue of licensing.
Wale wanafanya kazi, wale wadogo, kuna the medium na kuna wale wanafanya hii kazi kiwango kikubwa kidogo. So it has been categorized. Ndio kusudi ni muhimu ya kwamba kila mfanyabiashara lazima ajiandikishe, ndio ijulikane wewe una deal na what kind of scrap metal. Na ikiwa hiyo imepatikana kwamba you are dealing with classes which you are not entered, sasa hiyo nayo utakuwa umevunja sheria.
That puts a cap on matters business. Up next is Daniel Wahome with what has been happening in the sporting world. Do not go away.
Konyo, we are going for an official meeting. Sio kwenda tunaenda kucheza golf hapa.
Umerada nimevaa designer shorts. Na mimi ni dere. Sasa imagine dere amevaa designer shorts.
Rayaga man, you can spell it the way you want. You can call it OZ mosquito, WX mosquito, XYZ mosquito, umbu ni umbu.
When they are types of mosquitoes, you guys.
I only know two.
The silent ones and the ones that marinate you with their song before landing.
Your Honor, she can take the house up country. I will take the one in town.
I will never ever replace him. Never. You can just go back to where you came from and then come back when somebody else dies.
You're not the only one who lost her father, right? Is Mama Pauline?
No.
Do you have to be that nasty?
How much does she know?
And why didn't anyone tell Nick?
Who are we blackmailing? Don't walk with your face down, darling. As much as everyone is trying to put on a tough face right now.
We are tough.
It is the cup with the golden ticket. Mozart Bet Cup, 2 million shillings. CAF Confederations Cup. Kuwa mshindi. Mozart Bet Cup.
A very good evening to you. My name is Daniel Wahome and welcome to Prime Edition Sport. Now, preparation for the national women's volleyball team for the upcoming international assignment got a boost after betting firm Mozart Bet announced a 15 million shilling sponsorship. The Malkia strikers are set to depart for Morocco on Friday for a 2-week training stint in preparation for the Challenger Cup in France and the Africa Cup of Nations due in Cameroon.
Mozart Bet extended their partnership with Malkia Strikers to a further year as the national side prepares for the International Volleyball Federation Challenger Cup, scheduled for June 27th to 30th in Laval, France. Malkia Strikers is set to undergo a 2-week training in Morocco ahead of the elite competition.
We support so many sports here, as well as corporate and social responsibility program across the country. But we trust and we believe, and it is the fact, that the Kenya is homeland of champions.
The 8-team championship has also attracted Vietnam, Colombia, Croatia, France, Ukraine, Sweden and Mexico. Malkia Strikers will use the championship to gain ranking as they attempt to qualify for the 2024 Paris Olympic Games.
The training started 2 weeks ago and we had 20 players. It was very competitive on the side of different positions of the players, and we dropped 4 being ready for the trip which is starting on this Friday, and I can tell you that the competition between the players is very, very tough.
For me, I want to qualify for someone mwenye achaenda, umeona. Nataka na ile mtu ametoka shule acheze Olympic. Hata kama mimi sitakuwa nataka ila naka kulikuwa na player mmoja anaitwa Mohima alifanya nikacheza nini Olympic. I'm not going to qualify for myself. I'm qualifying for the young Malkia Strikers wala wako kwa team na wala wako kwa team.
The 16-member squad is a mixture of youth and experience, with a technical bench recalling Triza Atuka to the team after a lengthy leg injury off.
Now, and head coach Curtis Olago has named the national under-20 rugby team that will participate in the forthcoming World Rugby Under-20 Trophy, scheduled for the 15th to the 30th of July at the Manyara National Stadium in Nairobi. Olago named a team of 28 players who will be captained by Kenya Harlequins Laban Kipsang. Kenya will face Hong Kong, Samoa and Spain in Pool B. Other players named in the team include Stanislas Shikoli, Raymond Chacha, Victor Odhiambo, Dennis Kisingu, Brian Mwendwa and Rafael Wanga, among others. It is the second time that Kenya is hosting the World Rugby Under-20 Trophy after doing so in 2009, where Kenya finished 4th. The winners will be promoted to the World Rugby Under-20 Championship next year.
During battles, we just hadn't prepared enough. We did not prepare well enough because we've come back in and change the shape of how we want to attack and how we want to defend. We did not defend very well during battles. Yeah, we could attack, but we could not defend very well. But now we change the shape and we hope that it will work. These changes in the squad, I mean, they're just to boost us because our physicality was wanting during the last game against Zimbabwe. Once we took on Namibia, and then we had to crumble physically. So just looking at adding that to our game a bit. So, I mean, the changes are coming in handy.
Moving on is a double Olympic champion. Faith Kipyegon has been named the Sports Personality of the Month of June for 2023. The double record-setting Kipyegon was fitted today during a brief ceremony conducted at our training base at the Kaptagat Athletics Camp, Uasin Gishu County.
The middle distance runner shattered 2 world records in a span of 1 week during the month of June, a feat that no sports personality would match. She set the women's 1500 meters world record, clocking 3 minutes 49.11 seconds at the 3rd Diamond League meeting of the season in Florence, Italy on June 2nd. The Kenyan athlete, winner of the last 2 Olympic 1500 meter golds and the 2017 and 2022 world titles, bettered the previous mark of 3 minutes 50.07 seconds set by Ethiopia's Genzebe Dibaba in 2015. Kipyegon will set the new 5,000 meters world record a week later during the Paris Diamond League when she ran 14 minutes 50.02 seconds to set a new record over the distance. Kipyegon will set a new 5,000 meters women's record a week later when she ran 14 minutes 50.02 seconds at the Paris Diamond League meeting. Kipyegon becomes the second athlete after Angelo Kutoi to win the S-Jack Award thrice. And in winning the June trophy, Kipyegon, who trains in Kaptagat, took home a personal trophy and cash award.
It's really delightful for us to be here once again, for your hard work, Faith, for us to recognize you. For us as LG, with the partnership with sports journalists, we are here to just recognize and award talent. We've done this for 8 years now.
This is my second award. The first one I got LG washing machine, and I'm so grateful and happy, and it has motivated me a lot, as I said last time.
Now moving on is that Cesare Carpano of Italy and South Africa's Daniel Krieger have qualified for the men's and double semi-finals of the ongoing Harambee International Junior Tennis Tour at the Nairobi Club. India's Kothapali and Ube Voja also reached the last 4.
The pair of Cesare Carpano of Italy and Daniel Krieger of South Africa reached the last 4 of the men's doubles after defeating India's duo of Trishan Dhawan and Ved Pawar in the quarterfinals. An Indian pair of Anup Keshavamadi and Aum Parikh also assured themselves of a place in the last 4 after defeating Hasina Ranaivo and Alexander Zikic. In the girls category, Cynthia Wanjala of Kenya and Shana Martin of Tanzania went through to the semi-finals after defeating Siddharth Kaur of India and Germany's Leila Esther.
Most of them are young, 14, 15 years. So we're hoping that as they grow and get more experience, they'll get deeper into the draw. Because the reason why we hold these events is to try and encourage them to improve their levels, get much experience, and therefore get to the international level.
I'm proud for reaching in semi-finals and doubles and even singles, and tomorrow I'm like 100% prepared for my singles, and my goal is to reach finals.
The competition enters the penultimate round on Thursday, with the singles quarterfinals and the doubles semi-finals for both girls and boys lined up. For Prime Edition, I'm Fred Njogu.
So that's the sport for tonight. Join us for more action tomorrow, and we'll be telling you what's going to be happening all over the weekend. My name is Daniel Wahome. I'm not going away. Regina Manyara, I'm sure, is going to be coming back with a question or two not so far from now.
It is the cup with the golden ticket. Mozart Bet Cup, 2 million shillings. CAF Confederations Cup. Kuwa mshindi. Mozart Bet Cup.
Well, thank you very much, Wahome, for that update on what is happening in the sporting world. Now, come 7th, which happens to be Sabasaba Day, also is going to be the World Swahili Day. And these particular festivities are going to be taking place down in Mombasa County. Now, in the spirit of actually, upholding our national values, Kiswahili is still our national language. Wahome, how about to give us a sign out in Swahili? Let's see how you do.
Regina, this is the English bulletin, but I will oblige to that.
Go ahead.
Na Wakenya wenzangu, ningetaka kuwakumbusha ya kwanza, kuna lugha mbili ambazo zinatumika kwenye bara Afrika. Lugha ambayo inaongea na watu wengi ni Kiarabu. Lakini tuangalie ni lugha nyingine gani ambao watu wengi wanaongea? Usiseme ni Kifaransa, usiseme ni Kiingereza. Lugha ambayo inatumika na watu wengi Afrika baada ya Kiarabu ni lugha ya Kiswahili. Na pia tukumbuke ya kwamba katika mkutano mmoja wa Jumuiya ya bara Afrika ni rais tu mmoja ametoa hotuba kwa lugha rasmi ya shirikisho ya Jumuiya ya Afrika. Kwa Kiingereza tunasema African Union. Ni aliyekuwa rais wa Msumbiji. Nyinyi mnajua kama Mozambique, anajulikana kwa Joaquim Chissano. Peke yake ametoa hotuba kwa lugha ya Kiswahili. Sio rais kutoka Kenya, sio rais kutoka Tanzania, sio rais ambaye ametoka Uganda, sio rais ametoka kule Kongo ama Rwanda ama Urundi, lakini ni rais wa Msumbiji, aliyekuwa rais wa Msumbiji Joaquim Chissano alitoa lugha katika kongamano la para Afrika EU kule Uhabeshi, Ethiopia, Addis Ababa, kwa lugha ya Kiswahili Joaquim Chissano. Kwa hivyo siku ya Ijumaa tusherehekee lugha ambayo inatumika na watu wengi Afrika baada ya lugha ya Kiarabu ambayo ni lugha ya Kiswahili. Jina langu ni Daniel Wahome na kutakia usiku mwanana.
Shukran sana Daniel Wahome, nami naitwa Regina Manyara. Uwe na usiku mwema, usio na bugdha.
Cheza Loto Moto.
Sasa unaweza jishindia instantly na Loto Moto. Dial star 570 hash. Wakati wowote, siku yoyote ya wiki na mahali popote. Dial star 570 hash. Kisha chagua moja kati ya games za Loto Moto. Weka stakes zako 50 shillings, 300, 500, 2,000 shillings. The bigger your stake, the greater or the bigger your prizes. Cheza mara kadhaa na kumbuka, cheza responsibly. 18 years and above.
Cheza Loto Moto.
Ambia nataka kwenda kubadilisha nje. Acha ujinga kijana.